Carbon dioxide emissions with gasoline. You're traveling from Bloomington to Lafayette, a distance of 118 miles for the Oak and Bucket game, right? IU versus Purdue. If your car gets 20 miles per gallon, how many gallons do you need for the round trip? Okay, now, two things. One, round trip. Two, the answer, you want your answer to be in gallons. So just keep that in mind. Now, we know we have 118 miles. But round trip, so we multiply that by 2. I'm going a total of 236 miles. I know my car gets 20 miles per gallon. Remember, the per is the division bar. This makes my miles go away. So if I divide total miles by 20, I end up with 11.8 gallons of gas. How many pounds of CO2 are produced during that trip? Well, if I use 11.8 gallons from that previous problem, I know my CO2 is 19.8 pounds of CO2 per gallon of gas. So my gallons here cancel out, I multiply straight across, and I will produce 233.64 pounds of carbon monoxide, or of CO2, from this trip back and forth to the game. Number 3, you plan to drive to Disney World for vacation. If the trip is 950 miles, how much CO2 is emitted if your car averages 30 miles per gallon? Okay, so start with how far are you driving? And you know CO2 is in pounds, so you could work backwards if you're not sure where to start. I'll do that. I'll do it 2 different ways. But first, 950 miles. You know your car gets 30 miles per 1 gallon. That makes your miles go away. And you know that CO2 is 19.8 pounds per gallon. And so those cancel out. You end up with 627 pounds. Now, if you read this and you're like, wow, I have no idea where to go. Well, if it says how much CO2, and you know you're using gasoline because you're talking about driving. So gasoline and CO2, you know your final step is going to be the 19.8 pounds per 1 gallon. And so you kind of work backwards and say, okay, this is what my answer is going to be in. That means I need to get rid of gallon. Where else do I see in this problem how to do gallons? Well, here, 30 miles per gallon. So 30 miles per 1 gallon, that gets rid of this. But now I have miles. Well, to get rid of miles, they have to go up here. Where else do I see miles? 950. So you can kind of set it up backwards if you're unsure of where to start, because you know what your last conversion is going to be because it's CO2 and gasoline. Okay, number 4. During which of the following trips would your car emit more CO2? A or B? Okay, so let's do A here. Using a car that averages 15 miles per gallon to travel 150 miles. Okay, now I'm going to do this one, set this one backwards. So we're using CO2 with gas, which means we have 19.8 pounds per 1 gallon. I need to get rid of gallons. So in part A, 15 miles per gallon. So 15 miles per is the division sign, 1 gallon. That makes my gallons go away. And now how many miles is this person traveling? 150. So 150 divided by 15 times 19.8 gives me 198 pounds for part A. Okay, part B. Well, I didn't read part B. 28 miles per gallon for 300 miles. So 300 miles at 28 miles per 1 gallon, and we know that gas emits 19.8 pounds per 1 gallon of gas. So gallon, gallon, mile, mile. 300 divided by 28 times 9.8 gives me 212.14 pounds of CO2. Therefore, A gives 1 off 98, B gives 212, so which one is more? B. And really it's because you're going twice as far and you're not getting twice as much gas, CO2, miles per gallon. My goodness, I can't speak. But there is some practice with CO2 and gasoline.